Terrifying time.
Chalino Sanchez Felix, most commonly known by his stage name Chalino Sanchez, was born on August 30th, 1960 in Badiraguato, Sinaloa, Mexico. Chalino grew up in his family's ranch called Las Flechas, which was located in a very violent and rural area of Sinaloa. There, Chalino lived with his siblings, 6 brothers and 1 sister, and he was the youngest of the family's 8 children. Chalino's early life was very difficult. When Chalino was just 6 years old, his father lost his life. Sanchez first began recording in the studio in 1987 and would record 15 songs. By the end of the 1980s, Chalino was performing for bigger venues and signed a recording contract under Pedro Rivera's label, father of Lupillo and Jenny Rivera. During a Coachella performance in 1992, Chalino was asked to perform one of his infamous songs, El Gallo de Sinaloa, by a local mechanic. Immediately after the music started playing, a mechanic named Gallegos jumped on stage and fired 4 shots at Sanchez. In retaliation, Sanchez fired his gun at Gallegos, but it jammed. This led to Sanchez throwing his gun at Gallegos. In the altercation, Sanchez was shot twice in the chest and near his armpit. The bullet struck his lung, and the other bullet hit the accordionist in the thigh. Unfortunately, Sanchez's shots missed Gallegos and accidentally hit and killed 20-year-old Claudio Rene Carranza. After the January 1992 shooting, Chalino entered the peak of his success. He was getting copious amounts of press, his venue capacity was increasing, and his sales and radio airplay increased, particularly for his non-narco song Nieves de Enero. Even though his notoriety increased dramatically, it was a double-edged sword for Sanchez as he began fearing for his life. His fears would come true when on May 16, 1992, during a performance at the Salon Bugambilias in Culiacan, Chalino Sanchez was handed a note from someone in the crowd. The note is commonly believed to have been a death threat warning him that he will be killed that night, but this has never been confirmed. A video shows Sanchez reading the note, showing signs of worry, then crumpling up the note and continuing to sing. The concert came to a conclusion, and after midnight, Sanchez left the club with 2 of his brothers, a cousin, and several young women. Their vehicle was pulled over by a group of armed men in black Chevrolet Suburbans. They showed state police ID cards and told Chalino that their commander wanted to see him. Sanchez agreed and got into one of their cars. Unfortunately, Sanchez's body was found by an irrigation canal near the neighborhood of Los Laureles, Culiacan. He was blindfolded, and his wrists were red and had rope marks. Chalino had been shot in the back of the head twice. Chalino Sanchez was buried in the Panteón de los Besitos in Sinaloa, Mexico. There are several theories surrounding Chalino's death. The most popular is that Chalino was killed in revenge for the shooting that occurred in 1992. Other theories include cartel retaliation for the lyrics in his songs, and that he had several links to drug trafficking. As of this recording, Chalino's death remains unsolved.
Paulo Sergio Gomez Sanchez, most commonly known as Sergio Gomez, was a Mexican singer who founded and served as lead vocalist for the Duranguense band Capaz de la Sierra. He was born on June 2nd, 1973, in the city of Ciudad Hidalgo, Michoacan, Mexico. After having immigrated to the United States and while working in the city of Chicago in the year 2003, Sergio, alongside 7 other native Mexicans who were also working in Chicago at the time, created the band Capaz de la Sierra. The band specialized in covering hit songs while incorporating Duranguense instrumentals and beats into their music. The result was often a fast-paced and upbeat song. The band would turn out to be an instant success given how it burst onto the scene, right as the Duranguense genre of music in Mexico was experiencing widespread growth and popularity all throughout the country. Sergio would quickly become a fan favorite, often being praised for his voice and great command of the crowd. However, as fate would have it, Sergio's rise to popularity and fame would prove to be short-lived. The early hours of December 2nd, 2007, After performing in a concert in Michoacan, Mexico the night before, Sergio, alongside his band, would make their way to Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco, where they would be performing the next day. The band was traveling in 3 vehicles on the highway, when all of a sudden, a convoy of armed men sped up next to each van until they found the one where Sergio was traveling in. The armed men stopped the vehicle, claiming to be policemen performing a search. Sergio was detained alongside 2 music promoters who were in the van with him. Hours later, however, the 2 music promoters would be freed by the armed men, while Sergio would be officially kidnapped. This would make it clear that the armed men were part of a delinquent group. That morning, band members informed the authorities about Sergio's kidnapping after hours had gone by without hearing a word about him. News outlets would later get a hold of the news and inform the public about Sergio's kidnapping. Unfortunately, the day went by and nothing else came up regarding Sergio's whereabouts. The next morning, on December 3rd, authorities found Sergio's dead body on the side of a road in Chiquimetillo, Michoacan, about 10 miles north of Morelia, Michoacan, where the band's concert had taken place a couple of days prior. Sergio's body showed visible signs of torture and was identified by a tattoo he had of a Black Panther on his left arm, which helped family and band members confirm it was indeed Sergio. Sergio was found in a bad state. His face was swollen, there were bruises on his abdomen and chest, he had signs of being strangled, and his thighs and genitals appeared to have been burned with a cigarette lighter. After it was made public that Sergio had been tortured and killed, many theories began to circulate as to what could have been the cause behind his kidnapping, torture, and subsequent murder. A popular theory throughout Mexico mentioned Sergio had been warned not to perform at the concert by a cartel leader in Michoacan who was upset that the band had performed live for their rival cartel. Moreover, it was later revealed by members of Capaz de la Sierra that Sergio had been warned about performing in Michoacan in the past, to which he had agreed to cancel a prior concert due to the warning. But this time, he was intent on delivering a concert for his fans, despite the cartel threats, only going as far as to hire 2 personal security guards for the event. Fellow band members later recalled Sergio telling them before the concert that night that he felt nervous and had a feeling something bad was about to happen. Another theory mentioned Sergio being romantically involved with the wife of a powerful cartel figure also in the area. This theory gained widespread popularity as well, due to Sergio's genitals having been burned. This was thought to have been a retaliation, possibly citing a crime involving adultery. The last theory involves Sergio not paying a presentation fee the band was requested to pay by the cartel if they wanted to perform live in the area. And having not paid the fee, the cartel viewed it as a challenge and as a disrespect, hence retaliating. However, to this day, neither of these theories have been confirmed to be true, and 17 years later, his death still remains an unresolved mystery.
Zayda Peña Arjona was born on March 5, 1981, in Matamoros, Mexico. She was a talented Mexican regional and Tejano and Norteña singer that found success early on in her career. Her friends and family described her as an intelligent and sensible person that loved music from a very young age. Hence, when she was just 15 years old, Zayda got herself a record deal with Balboa Music Records. Her undeniable talent made her become the lead singer of the band centered around her, Zayda y los Culpables, in 1996, which translates to Zayda and the Guilty Ones. Zayda y los Culpables would play grupera music, which featured ballads and romantic cumbias of love and loss all across Mexico. They released their debut album in that same year and would later on release a total of 9 albums. They produced various hits, including the songs De Contrabando and Tiro de Gracia. De Contrabando became a commercially successful single that was covered by artist Jenny Rivera, which propelled her to stardom. On the night of December 1st, 2007, a gunman shot Zayda Peña in the back at Monaco Motel in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, a location that sits across the US-Mexico border in Brownsville, Texas. At the scene, a motel employee and Zayda's friend were also shot. Unfortunately, it was revealed that both individuals lost their lives after the shooting. Zayda was then taken to Alfredo Pumarejo Hospital in Matamoros, where doctors tended to her wounds and determined that her injuries were not fatal. However, she would need to be placed in emergency surgery as she had lost a lot of blood and doctors needed to remove the bullet. The day after she was shot, Zayda was recovering from her surgery in her room when several assailants entered the hospital searching for her. Once they found Zayda in one of the hospital rooms, the assailants went in and shot her again. This time, they shot her in the chest at point-blank range to ensure her death. Reports state that the bullet had pierced her back and hit her face. At just 26 years of age, the talented Zayda Peña had been assassinated. Zayda Peña's assassination shocked the entire country of Mexico Not only were the people of Mexico saddened by Zayda's death, but they were now fearful for the lives of other Mexican performers, as they were also mourning the loss of another renowned Mexican artist named Sergio Gomez that had been assassinated 2 days prior. Peña's passing is still considered a mystery, since she had no known connections to traffickers or any criminal activity, and she did not write or perform songs that could be aimed at traffickers. Tio de Gracia was the name of one of Zayda Peña's most famous songs. It is a term used for the final shot to the brain in an execution-style killing, which is similar to how Zayda was murdered. Zayda was laid to rest in the Parque Funeral San Joaquin in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico.
Valentin Elizalde Valencia, most commonly known as Valentin Elizalde, was a Mexican banda singer who was born on February 1st, 1979, in the city of Navojoa, Sinaloa, Mexico. He was popularly known as the Golden Rooster, choosing this nickname as a way to honor his late father, Lalo Elizalde, who was known as the Rooster. Initially, Valentin's first career choice wasn't to become a singer. Instead, he would attend the University of Sonora to study law, where he would go on to graduate with a degree. It wasn't until years later where Valentin would try his luck at singing. Despite facing some initial criticism for his singing voice being labeled as different, Valentin would win many people over by being charismatic on stage and being known for taking the time to interact with his fans after shows. The next year, he would release his first studio album. Many of Valentin's hit songs were romantic or love-themed songs, but some of his songs fell under the genre of narco corridos. Originating in Mexico, a narco corrido, or a drug ballad, is a subgenre of regional Mexican music. The lyrics in a narco corrido usually describe events and illegal activities involving drug trafficking. Many narco corridos are inspired by cartel figures or organizations and oftentimes are used as an outlet for one cartel to badmouth another one. There are times when cartel organizations pay musicians to compose and sing a song aimed at the opposing cartel. There is also situations where musicians of narco corridos become associated with certain cartels and must remain loyal to them and not sing for any other cartel. Allegedly, Valentin had composed a song for El Chapo Guzman, leader of the Sinaloa cartel, who was in a war with the Los Zetas cartel. The song titled A Mis Enemigos, or To My Enemies, contained many references to the Sinaloa cartel. The creation of this song angered Los Zetas and would subsequently lead to them harboring resentment toward Valentin as well. On November 25, 2006, Valentin, alongside his band, arrived at the border city of Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico, where they would be performing for the evening. Reynosa was at the time a city that was heavily controlled and trafficked by Los Zetas. It is alleged that right before beginning his concert, Valentin was warned not to sing the To My Enemy song by a group of men who approached him before he took center stage. At this point, Valentin had been basically threatened, but decided to disregard those threats and would not only go on to make that song his opening song, but also his closing song for the concert. This allegedly infuriated the leader of Los Zetas at the time, Jaime Gonzalez Duran, aka the Hummer, who would swiftly order Los Zetas to execute Valentin upon learning that the song was performed for a second time. The Hummer viewed this as a large disrespect towards Los Zetas for not only having someone in town who was allegedly linked to their rival, Sinaloa cartel, but also for having a song that was inspired by the Sinaloa cartel and aimed directly at them. According to witnesses at the concert, someone approached Valentin near the stage after he sang the song for the first time with what seemed like a pair of pictures or notes, to which Valentin analyzed and quickly continued to sing. Some say those documents contained a direct message from Los Zetas, possibly ordering him one final time not to sing the song. Upon ending the concert, Valentin would make his way to a section where he signed autographs and took pictures with fans. After this, he went on board an SUV alongside his chauffeur, his manager, and his cousin. They were going to travel to Morelia, Michoacan, Mexico, for their next concert. The SUV made its way onto the main boulevard and was only able to travel 100 meters when they were met by vehicles blocking their way. Armed men proceeded to step out of the vehicles and fired high-caliber weaponry at the SUV where Valentin was traveling in. Around 70 bullets were shot in total during the shooting. The attack ended up killing Valentin, his driver, and his manager on the spot. Valentin sustained around 20 gunshot wounds and was given a finishing blow to ensure his execution, making it clear he was the main target in the ambush. The only survivor in the attack was Valentin's cousin, Tano, who was merely grazed by a stray bullet. Unfortunately, The case has been closed by Mexican authorities for years now, with nobody being held responsible or arrested. To this day, it is still unknown as to who was the member of Los Zetas who killed Valentin and what was the exact reason behind his murder. Valentin's death continues to be surrounded by theories and mystery 18 years later.
Chalino Sanchez, Sergio Gomez, Zayda Peña, and Valentin Elizalde were talented singers that sadly fell victims to the organized crime in Mexico. Their deaths highlight the violence that was and still is rampant in Mexico, which has led many to criticize the Mexican government for not protecting their artists. At the hands of the Mexican cartels, heinous crimes have been committed, and in order to prevent retaliation, the media is forced to not go into detail regarding the murders. Thus, many similar cases to the ones previously mentioned have occurred, as was the case recently when Mexican corrido singer Peso Pluma received death threats warning him not to have a concert in a cartel city in Mexico or he will be cold-bloodedly murdered. Rest in peace, Chalino Sanchez, Sergio Gomez, Zayda Peña, and Valentin Elizalde.